Hey everybody, in our first physical science lab we're going to be looking at unit conversion. So we're going to do different measurements. We're going to do measurements with the metric system and then the imperial system of the same objects. I have 8 objects around me right now that I'm going to use to measure with a metric ruler and a inches or imperial unit ruler. You can do this at home. If you want to pick up your own objects that you find around the house, all you need is a ruler like this. You need some way to measure metric, which are the centimeters on the top of this ruler, and then you also want to be able to measure in inches or feet. We're just going to stick with inches and centimeters, and we'll use that to do a comparison between the length something is in inches and the length something is in centimeters, and then we'll do a comparison. When we do that comparison, what we're going to discover is something called the conversion factor, how we can switch or convert between one unit and another. Let's take a look at the objects. On the table here I have my 8 different objects that I'm going to measure. I have a tape dispenser. I'll measure its length. I have this metal thing, which is for mounting stuff onto a cylinder, like that, and then you tighten the screws, so we'll measure its length this way. I have a really small light bulb. We'll measure its length. Focus. I have this kind of strange magnification plastic magnifying glass kind of thing. We'll measure its length. Then I have just a regular container here, a red box. We'll measure that. Next object is an old school ammeter for measuring current. We'll measure that length. I have this thing which we usually use for when we study sound. It's basically a water gun, a squirt gun. We'll measure that length. And then we also have a triple beam balance. We'll measure its length as well. So those are our 8 different objects. You can find your own objects at home if you have a way to measure both the imperial length in inches with a tape measure or a ruler, but you also are going to need a way to measure the metric length in centimeters. So if you don't have that, that's okay. You can use the measurements that I'm about to take right now. It looks like a little bit longer than 2 centimeters. Metric again. Like a little more than 8 centimeters there. There we go. Side. Let's take a look at our tape dispenser. There we go. Let's flip it over to inches. There we go. This guy's probably shorter than the other ones, but that's alright. That's our ammeter. Nice, there we go. I've got my box here. So there's an extra ruler there helping us line things up. The left side of the pink ruler is lined up with the edge of the box. Alright, let's take a look. Again, left side of our pink ruler is lined up with the edge of the box. Now it's time for our triple beam balance. I use rulers to line up the edges of our triple beam balance so it's easier for me to measure with my meter stick to help me get a better measurement. So that's where we're starting right there. And then the left end of left side of the red ruler is the end of the triple beam balance. Alright, I got 0 inches right at the end there. And then again, we're taking the left side of our red ruler to find our total length measurement. So that's the total number of inches right there. Alright, our last object is also long, so we'll use the meter stick and stick once again. This is the water gun thing. Alright, there it is. Almost to the edge of the whiteboard. So we're going to look at the metric side first, and it's going to be the end of the tube of the squirt gun is lined up with the left side of this pink ruler. Let's flip it over to the imperial side with inches, or the yardstick side. Here's the full length. All right, and we're looking at the left side of the pink meter stick. Okay. All right, well, that's all 8 of our measurements, all 8 objects we measured in both metric, in centimeters, and also in inches. And those lengths are going to be the same. For each individual object, there is a certain number of centimeters and a certain number of inches. They're measuring the same length for an individual object, but because they're different units, we're going to have 2 different numbers. Make sure you do all 4 components for your lab report, which means you should have a diagram of the objects either you used at home or the diagram of the objects I used here, and label them. Also make sure that you then have a procedure. What did we do to take our measurements? Then, after your procedure, make sure you have something that shows your data in a table. So I recommend you have the name of the object, and then its length in centimeters, and then its length in inches. Then make a new row, and have the next object's name, its length in centimeters, and its length in inches. All the way down for all 8 objects that we did. Your conclusion needs to be something like 3 to 5 sentences, and we're looking at the relationship between the measurement in inches and the measurement in centimeters. There's something called the conversion factor, which is a factor by which you could multiply your inches in order to turn it into centimeters. Or there's another factor that you could use to multiply your other units and turn them back the other way. So you can go from inches to centimeters or centimeters to inches. The conversion factor is the number that lets you do that. See if you can figure out what the conversion factor is if you want to go from inches to centimeters and centimeters to inches. We should have that information based on our data that we collected. Include that in your conclusion and any other relationships or patterns that you noticed. That's it for this lab. See you next time.